Greetings everyone, my name is Gigi and this is Let's Build, wherein I build a Lego set timed to different media and talk about the facts concerning the topic of the build. Today's build is the Lego The Lord of the Rings Barad-dur versus Middle-earth Shadow of War. All footage I'm using is for science, educational, and research purposes. My content is transformative and protected under fair use. All footage is time-lapse with commentary. I apologize in advance for pronouncing names and/or places incorrectly. Spoilers ahead, you've been warned. If you want to help me get the attention of LEGO, please give me a like and subscribe. Specifications of the LEGO set. Journey to Middle-earth with LEGO Icons The Lord of the Rings Barad-dur model. This impressive model memorabilia set is bursting with features that fans will adore and depicts the ominous fortress with its soaring tower elevating the Eye of Sauron high above Middle-earth. The set also comes with 10 minifigures, including Sauron, Mouth of Sauron, Gothmog, Orc, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. The first floor interior includes Gollum's hideout, a weapons forge, and a prison with a raisable orc cage. Above the second floor dining area, you'll find a room with a throne that opens to reveal a hidden map of Middle-earth. The fourth floor is home to Mouth of Sauron's study, while the fifth floor houses a tower library with a rotating ladder. The Black Gate is automated and the Eye of Sauron illuminates for captivating display. Discover the inspiring range of LEGO creative building sets for adults. The LEGO Builder app features a digital version of the building instructions included in this set. LEGO Icons The Lord of the Rings Barad-dur model. Craft a meticulously detailed replica of the ominous fortress, its soaring tower elevating the menacing Eye of Sauron high above Middle-earth. What's in the box? This creative building set features a replica of the Lord of the Rings Barad-dur and 10 minifigures, including Sauron, Mouth of Sauron, Orc, Frodo, Sam and Gollum, and Gothmog. Features and functions. The Black Gate is automated, the Eye of Sauron illuminates, and the 4-section modular structure features detailed rooms, including weapons forge, throne room, and prison. Packed with movie-themed accessories. Features diverse armor accessories including helmets for Mouth of Sauron and Sauron, plus the One Ring, Light of Elendil, and Sauron's mace. Gifts for movie lovers. Treat yourself or give this LEGO Icons movie memorabilia building set as a gift for adult fans of the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy. LEGO Building Kits for Adults. This LEGO Icons project is part of the inspiring range of LEGO creative building sets designed specifically for adults. Dimensions. The fortress in this 5,471-piece building set measures over 32.5 inches high, 17.5 inches wide, and 12 inches deep. The Dark Tower. In the Lord of the Rings trilogy, we first get a glimpse of the power of Barad-dur when, by chance, Frodo Baggins slips the One Ring on his finger. An embodiment of the Dark Lord Sauron, the eye of the macabre fortress pierces the black skies of Mordor and enters Frodo's mind in terrifying vision. Over centuries, Sauron has gained the strength to take over all of Middle-earth. Sustained by the power of the One Ring, Sauron, and by extension his fortress, are all but indestructible while the ring still exists. The heroic hobbits join the Fellowship of the Ring on a grueling journey to destroy the ring in the heart of Mordor. As Samwise Gamgee carries Frodo through the final stretch to a doorway on the side of Mount Doom, a frantic Gollum tries to stop them and ultimately perishes in the fire with his precious. Barad-dur, Sauron, and his army of orcs disintegrate in a cataclysmic collapse. Inspired by the enigmatic monument, this model recreates remarkable details and offers a unique look at events that might have transpired behind the scenes in Mordor. From the LEGO Design Fellowship. Our LEGO journey into Middle-earth began with a series of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit sets released in 2012 to 2014, and in 2023 we traveled to Rivendell with the Fellowship of the Ring. This is the first time we travel this deep into the heart of Mordor and peek into the Dark Lord's lair, and it's the first time we are releasing the character of Sauron as a LEGO minifigure. To the fans of the Lord of the Rings novels and movies, Barad-dur is one of the most characteristic locations in Middle-earth. In the films, we barely see the entire tower or its interior close up, so we experimented with different scenes and ideas. The model is quite big, so we split it into sections to allow for better building experience and handling of the model. The model is very dark, so we added color gradients to create the illusion of lava reflections, as well as the all-seeing, all-moving Eye of Sauron on the top of the platform. The model is equipped with several different functions, from the opening front gates and turning ladder in the library to hidden sections, surprise accessories, and secrets of the Dark Tower. We hope fans of both LEGO sets and Lord of the Rings will really enjoy exploring the formidable Mordor landmark. Antika Brakanov, LEGO Senior Model Designer. The Forge and Dungeons. Your LEGO Barad-dur model is divided into several different modular levels. At ground level, you can turn the brick button on the left side to open and close the main gate and enter the forge and the dungeons. The sad remains of an unfortunate guest hang glumly above the liquid lava and warn unwelcome visitors of the fate that awaits them if they cross the Dark Lord. Next door, orcs prepare for the upcoming sieges of Middle-earth. Shields, helmets, tools, pauldrons, and spears are forged, sharpened and fitted in the river of fire that flows through the dungeons from Mount Doom. At the other end of the dungeon, Gollum hides in a small cave. A secret nook in the cave is occupied by a giant spider. Whether Gollum put it there to keep him company or to contain it is uncertain. As the hobbits reach the end of their journey, Gollum's first-hand knowledge of the darkest corners of Mordor helps Frodo Baggins and Samwise Gamgee avoid detection as they sneak through enemy territory. Frodo Baggins struggles through the rough terrain of Mordor on his journey to destroy the One Ring in the fires of Mount Doom. The 1x4 flat LEGO tile in transparent orange is a new color made for this model. The set contains 63 of them. The Phial of Galadriel, held by Samwise Gamgee, was originally a gift from Galadriel to Frodo Baggins. After Frodo lost the phial during his battle with Shelob, Sam defeated Shelob and retrieved the phial. The rocky terrain around the Dark Tower comes in several different colors. The rocks closest to the lava are the warmest colors, while those further away are darker and colder. Posing as orcs, it took Frodo Baggins and Samwise Gamgee around 10 days to trek across the rough terrain of Mordor to reach Mount Doom. The Gollum minifigure was redesigned for this set and features a new face decoration. One does not simply walk into Mordor, especially not beyond the tall, impenetrable walls of Sauron's fortress. Boromir. The color gradient gives dark, sharp, and pointy architecture of the tower a majestic and dynamic appearance. No, Frodo. The spirit of Sauron endured. His life force is bound to the ring, and the ring survived. Sauron has returned. His orcs have multiplied. His fortress of Barad-dur is rebuilt in the land of Mordor. Gandalf. As it was constructed using the power of the One Ring, the foundations of the fortress cannot be destroyed as long as the One Ring exists. The sturdy base of the model was split into 4 sections to allow better building flow and easier orientation and navigation through the build. The model uses hinge elements to create the unique shape of the fortress. Every floor was designed by using different angles. The name Barad-dur means Dark Tower in the Elvish language of Sindarin. Barad-dur is the tallest structure in Middle-earth, allegedly over 3,000 feet tall. It took over 600 years to build. 172 black 1x2 profile bricks were used to create the textured walls of the tower. It was Gollum who revealed to Sauron that the One Ring had resurfaced in the Shire, in the possession of a hobbit named Baggins. The main gates can be opened by turning this knob disguised as a rock. A brand new family pack of helmets was created for this model, creating 4 different designs. To trek through Mordor undiscovered, Frodo Baggins and Samwise Gamgee disguised themselves in orc helmets. Turning a big gear in the back lowers or lifts the cage that hangs perilously above the lava pit. The dining hall. This level houses the large dining hall of Barad-dur. Morannon Orc General Gothmog is there to oversee the preparation and serving of meals. In the field, orcs may not get to eat on a regular basis. The long dining table overflows with delicacies and drinks for the general and his men. A stew in a large cauldron suspended above the lava stove. A hidden compartment in the left wall contains secrets about the rings of power forged for the elves. In the land of Mordor, the Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret a master ring to control all others, and into this ring he poured his cruelty, his malice, and his will to dominate all life. One ring to rule them all. Galadriel. Each level of the model can be extracted for easier access to the interior and a better building experience. Gothmog is the Witch King's first lieutenant, most notable for leading the attack on Osgiliath, and immediately after that, the siege of Minas Tirith. For the Lord of the Rings movies, a 27-foot tall model of Barad-dur was built in 1/66th scale. The architecture of the fortress, dark, sharp, and seemingly endlessly tall, reflects the character of Sauron and his perception of his own image. A brand new shield design was made for this model, and the busy orcs can be seen forging them there. Just like they use lava to forge the weapons, orcs utilize it to prepare food in their dining hall. Nobody knows how a carrot found its way into the orcs' menu. Sauron the Great bids thee welcome. The base of the tower levels is the Barad-dur throne room. Pull the lever in the floor, and the throne slides away to reveal the back chamber with the palantir and secret plans Sauron has envisioned for Middle-earth battles. A study room with a library boasts a rare collection of books and scrolls chronicling thousands of years of Middle-earth history and dark magic. A ladder circles along the bookcases for easy access to the top shelves. The great Eye of Sauron, always in search of the One Ring, hovers above Mordor. The eye moves left, right, up, and down, and can be illuminated by a light brick. The platform conceals the main function of this section. The design team envisioned the throne room as a minimalistic, dark, and ominous place, both with sharp angles and curved arches. The map behind the throne reveals the battle plans Sauron follows in his quest to conquer all of Middle-earth. Built on the side of the mountain, the tower seems unbreachable. This is the first time Sauron is introduced as a Lego minifigure, and his helmet was designed specifically for this set. A new decorated piece was made for this set. A palantir orb Sauron uses to spy on his enemies across Middle-earth. Pulling this knob reveals the secret room behind the throne. Bookshelves in the study room feature new decorations of window insert element and parchment scrolls. In the chambers of the Mouth of Sauron is a mithril shirt he uses to trick the Fellowship into believing he has captured Frodo Baggins. As Mouth of Sauron works on his correspondence with Isengard, a portrait of Sauron's hangs over him. The 1x8 rudder element was used to create the doorway on the chamber's exterior. Is there any in this root with authority to treat with me, or indeed with wit to understand me? Mouth of Sauron. The library at the top of the tower is a home to dark knowledge and magic. The spear element was recolored to black for this set. Multiple copies of the tower section can be stacked together with the easy modular building system. The blade element was recolored to black for this set. A mudguard element was used to create the shape of the eye. Concealed within his fortress, the Lord of Mordor sees all. His gaze pierces cloud, shadow, earth, and flesh. You know of what I speak, Gandalf. A great eye, lidless, wreathed in flame. Saruman. Barad-dur was Sauron's central stronghold in Mordor, serving as his seat of power in Middle-earth in the Second Age until its end, and again in the late Third Age after its rebuilding. Its final destruction happened a few years before the end of the Third Age. Barad-dur was sustained by dark magic and was the greatest fortress in Middle-earth of its time. It was built in the Second Age and leveled after Sauron's defeat in the War of the Last Alliance. Sauron rebuilt it in the Third Age as he regained his power, but it was forever destroyed immediately upon the destruction of the One Ring. In his writings, J.R.R. Tolkien describes little of the tower besides its terror, color, and surreal size. History. Following Sauron's occupation of the land of Mordor in S.A. 1000, he began making plans for the construction of a vast and powerful fortress to serve as his seat of power. He established Barad-dur upon a rocky peak near Mount Doom. Construction began around S.A. 1000 and took 600 years to complete. It was the greatest fortress built since the fall of Angband during the War of the Wrath. By the time of its completion, the fortress surpassed the greatest strongholds of men in both size and defense. Compared Minas Arnar and Minas Ithil, Barad-dur was practically impregnable. The fortress was lined with thick, magically imbibed stone walls that towered for hundreds of meters into the sky. Complementing the walls were thousands of spiked parapets, trebuchet batteries, lava flows, and a garrison of several thousand orcs and other evil races stationed within. Barad-dur was besieged for 7 years by the last alliance of elves and men during the Second Age, and was leveled after Sauron's defeat at the hands of Isildur. But because it was created using the power of the One Ring, its foundations could not be destroyed while the ring itself still existed. As Isildur failed to destroy the ring, the tower was eventually rebuilt when Sauron returned to Mordor thousands of years later in TA 2942. Near the end of the Third Age, between TA 3009 and 3017, Gollum was captured by orcs and taken to Barad-dur, while Gandalf and Aragorn were also searching for him. He was brutally tortured for information regarding the whereabouts of the One Ring, as Sauron had learned that he had once possessed it, and thus Sauron learned that the One Ring had been found. Then, after a very long time, they managed to wring the words Shire and Baggins from Gollum. Satisfied that he had learned all he could from the creature, and hoping to learn more by tracking him, Sauron released Gollum in TA 3017. Only when Frodo Baggins, with the unwitting aid of Gollum, destroyed the One Ring within Mount Doom, was Barad-dur finally and permanently destroyed. Without Sauron's power from the ring to sustain it, the fortress gave way and collapsed, never to be rebuilt. In adaptations, The Return of the King animated film from 1980. In the Return of the King film created by Rankin Bass, Barad-dur is only shown a few times. It is depicted as a castle-like fortress on the side of a mountain. The Eye of Sauron is not a part of the tower. Rather, it appears in the skies of Mordor. The Lord of the Rings film trilogy. For the Lord of the Rings film trilogy, directed by Peter Jackson, Richard Taylor and his design team built a 27-foot-tall bigature of Barad-dur for use at 1/66th scale, basing its appearance on an illustration by John Howe, done originally for Tolkien Calendar of 1991. Using the size scale for the model, the tower is shown to be around 5,000 feet tall, with the Eye of Sauron at its apex. Barad-dur's entirety is seen in an upward panning vision Frodo has in the first film, at Amon Hen. In the final battle in The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, at the Black Gate, the Dark Tower is seen to be in much closer proximity than it would have been according to Tolkien's maps. The animation of the tower's climactic destruction, when the One Ring has been destroyed, was rendered by Gray Horsfeld. Middle-earth, Shadow of War. Barad-dur is visible, though not a playable location, in the region of Gorgoroth in the Middle-earth, Shadow of War. It is depicted similarly to its appearance in the Lord of the Rings film trilogy. However, its appearance changes as the events of the game progress. Initially, its height is half that of Oronduin, and it's under heavy construction, and is very small on the map. During the middle of the game, it's much larger, but still incomplete. After the game is over, it's at its true massive size and complete with the Eye of Sauron at its peak. Middle-earth: Shadow of War is a 2017 action-adventure game developed by Monolith Productions and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. Shadow of War is the sequel to 2014's Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, both of which are based on J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium. The game is set between the events of Peter Jackson's The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings film trilogies, from which the game also takes inspiration. The player continues the story of Talion, the Gondorian ranger who bonded with the wraith of the elf Lord Celebrimbor as they forge a new ring of power to amass an army to fight against Sauron. The game builds upon the Nemesis system introduced in Shadow of Mordor, allowing Talion to gain followers from several races of Middle-earth and command them in warfare. Shadow of War expanded upon the scope of Shadow of Mordor by introducing new game mechanics and extending the Nemesis system, which procedurally generates orc characters for players to fight and recruit. Compared to its predecessor, the game features more light-hearted moments, and the 5 regions were designed to be bigger and more colorful. Locations in the game were inspired by the landscapes of eastern Washington, Alaska, and Iceland. Troy Baker returned to provide the voice of Talion, while simultaneously serving as the game's motion capture director. Other cast members include Alistair Duncan as Celebrimbor, Laura Bailey, and Pollyanna McIntosh. Announced in March 2017, the game was released worldwide for PlayStation 4, Windows, and Xbox One on October 10, 2017. Shadow of War had a generally favorable reception from critics, albeit more mixed than its predecessor. Reviewers praised the gameplay and improved Nemesis system, while criticizing the game's initial microtransactions, story, and bloated world design. Shadow of War was the best-selling video game in the United States in its month of release. Monolith supported the game post-launch with free updates and 2 story expansions. It was the last game Monolith developed before being shut down in February of 2025. Gameplay: Middle-earth: Shadow of War is an action-adventure game set in an open world and played from a third-person perspective. The player controls the game's protagonist, Talion, who has several athletic and combative abilities as a ranger of Gondor. The combat system in Shadow of War is similar to its predecessor. Talion can use his weapons to strike enemies and build up his might meter. Once Talion lands 8 consecutive strikes, he can perform a combat finisher move, massively damaging an enemy's health. When an enemy is about to strike Talion, a symbol will appear on top of their head, signaling the player to parry their attacks. Unblockable attacks are highlighted in red, and the player must try to dodge those attacks. In addition to melee combat, players can also utilize stealth tactics when approaching their targets. Talion also has unique abilities provided by the wraith of the elf lord Celebrimbor, with whom he shares his body. Through Celebrimbor, Talion can perform magical feats such as double jumping, activating Wraith Vision to highlight nearby enemies, shooting spirit arrows, wielding a spectral glaive, draining an enemy's health, or dominating them. Players must use their combined abilities to complete various missions, typically aimed to disrupt the armies of Sauron. As players progress in the game and complete story quests, they will gradually gain points to unlock new skills and abilities. Each skill can be individually upgraded to provide more gameplay perks and bonuses. The game features a currency called Mirian, which is earned by defeating enemies. Mirian can be used to purchase weaponry and other gear, as well as followers in the game's market. Talion has access to 5 different types of gear in his inventory: a sword, dagger, bow, armor, and a cloak. The effectiveness of a particular piece of gear is dictated by both its stat and rarity, which is categorized into common, rare, epic, and legendary. Players can spend the Mirian and finish unlock challenges in order to upgrade their weapons. In addition, gems can be slotted into Talion's gear. They can be used to either increase weapons damage, Talion's health, or the amount of Mirian Talion will gain through defeating enemies or completing quests. Several lower quality gems can be combined into a gem of the next higher quality. As players progress in the game, they will collect legendary gear. When multiple legendary gear of the same set are collected, combat bonuses will be granted to the player. There are side activities that Talion can participate in, such as purifying Hater Towers, which unlocks a fast travel point for players and reveals locations of interest to the player. He can also find lost Gondorian artifacts, solve puzzles to unlock Ithildin doors, collect Shelob's memories, and complete Shadows of the Past quests, which are challenges based on Celebrimbor's memories. Each of 4 of the 5 regions has a fortress operated by an overlord. Players must lay siege to these fortresses and maintain control after capturing them. Each fortress has a fortress level, which indicates how strong the war chiefs stationed inside the fortresses are and how well fortified the fortress is. Players can send their own followers to capture the fortress, and the combined strength of their followers are reflected by the player's own assault force level. If the fortress level and assault force level are similar, both sides could be even in strength, resulting in an even fight. After a fortress invasion has started, Talion and his followers must capture victory points and kill the overlord in the throne room. Players can then appoint one of their followers to become the new overlord of the fortress and improve their fortress with siege upgrades. Defense missions become available following a successful fortress conquest. After completing the game's main campaign, players can complete endgame content known as Shadow Wars, renamed Epilogue in July of 2018, in which players must defend their fortresses against hostile enemies 20 times before unlocking the game's bonus ending. The Nemesis System. The Nemesis system expands upon its introduction in Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. Similar to the first game, enemies in the game are procedurally generated. While generic orcs serve as cannon fodder as part of Sauron's armies, the game will begin tracking the ones that have notable achievements within the game, such as killing the player or surviving an encounter with the player. Enemies in the game will remember their interactions with Talion and taunt him when they encounter him again later. Hostile orcs may also return, scarred, with some even cheating death to exact revenge on Talion. Once the player dies, orcs will advance up the hierarchy and become captains, who are characters with unique attributes, strengths, weaknesses, and names. Intelligence on these captains can be collected through interrogating characters named worms. Enemy orcs will also ambush Talion, which is one of the random events that can happen at any point of the game. Players, upon learning a captain's traits, can avoid tactics that aggravate or enrage the captain and exploit their weaknesses, causing them to be dazed and leaving them defenseless. Captains in the games will also adapt, as the artificial intelligence in the game will learn the player's preferred gameplay tactics and develop strategies to counter them. Enemy orcs can be dominated through Celebrimbor's powers, allowing Talion to either recruit them, kill them, or shame them, which significantly lowers their level. Players cannot recruit orcs who have a higher level than Talion. A shamed enemy may also become a maniac, a deranged individual whose level will increase significantly. Shadow of War's Nemesis system also extends to Talion's followers as he gradually builds his own Ark army, which can be summoned onto the battlefield, assisting Talion in combat. Players can recruit a captain and send them in to infiltrate a fortress. They may be appointed as a bodyguard of a war chief, allowing said captain to betray the war chief in a subsequent mission. Following the death of a war chief, captains will battle each other for the position. Players will then unlock a Nemesis mission, allowing players to assist Talion's followers in battle to ensure their success. These war chiefs will then betray the Overlord during the fortress assault battles, thus making the fortress siege easier for Talion. There are a number of Nemesis missions, allowing Talion to perform tasks like extracting revenge on Captain who has previously killed him, or intervening in conflicts between orcs. Friendly orcs will also remember a specific encounter, saving Talion when he was about to be killed by a hostile captain, or attempting to take down a specific enemy captain on his own. Friendly orcs can also participate in fight pits, in which they battle another orc to death in order to earn gear and level up. However, friendly followers may also betray Talion. The player is able to transfer their top nemesis and their most loyal follower from Shadow of Mordor into Shadow of War through the Nemesis Forge. The game features 2 asynchronous multiplayer modes. In online vendetta missions, the player can enter another player's nemesis system to defeat their nemesis. Once another player's nemesis has been defeated, players would receive loot chest and spoils of war, Vendetta's form of experience. Social conquest allows players to invade another player's fortress and attempt to conquer them. This mode has 2 settings, friendly and ranked. Friendly allows players to invade someone's fortress without the risk of losing their army. Ranked, on the other hand, allows players to invade, but with a risk of losing some of their own orc followers permanently. When the game was released, players could purchase reward chests through the game's marketplace. This included loot chests that provided players with gear and consumables, war chests that unlock followers and training orders that improve a follower's attributes, and spoils of war chests that unlock high-level followers. In July 2018, the marketplace and all forms of microtransactions were completely removed from the game. Plot: Shadow of War continues the narrative from Shadow of Mordor, following undead ranger Talion, who is still infused with the spirit of the elf lord Celebrimbor. Talion and Celebrimbor travel to Mount Doom, where they forge a new ring of power that is free of Sauron's corruption. However, once the ring is forged, Celebrimbor is abducted and held hostage by Shelob, who asks Talion to hand over the ring in exchange for Celebrimbor. Talion reluctantly agrees and gives the ring to Shelob, who claims they have a common enemy in Sauron. She uses the ring to see into the future and directs Talion and the last Gondorian stronghold near Mordor, Minas Ithil. The city is under siege by Sauron's forces, due to the city's possession of a valuable palantir that allows whoever possesses it to see anything they wish, making it either a valuable tool for Celebrimbor or a powerful weapon for Sauron. Talion travels to Minas Ithil and is at odds with Celebrimbor. Talion wants to help his fellow Gondorians, while Celebrimbor believes the city is already lost and the retrieval of the Palantir must take priority. Talion reasons that protecting Minas Ithil will protect the Palantir, and he meets up with the city's defenders. General Castamir, his daughter Idril, and his lieutenant Barad-dur. Together they sabotage any efforts by Sauron's forces to break into the city, until Castamir betrays them, allowing the orcs to breach the gates, and hands over the Palantir to the Witch King of Angmar in return for sparing Idril. Castamir is killed by the Witch King, and Talion is barely able to make an escape with the help of Elteriel, an elven assassin working on behalf of Galadriel. The Witch King, having seized Minas Ithil, renames it Minas Morgul. With the Palantir, Sauron realizes that Shelob is holding Celebrimbor's ring and sends the Nazgul to attack her. Talion is able to save Shelob, who returns the ring to him and tells him that the fate of Middle-earth is in his hands. With the ring back in his possession, Talion begins to use its power to dominate orcs and build his army. During this time, he assists Idril and Barad-dur in rescuing Gondorian survivors, helps the nature spirit Carnan defeat the Balrog Tar Goroth, and the necromancer Zog is betrayed by one of his followers and hunts the Nazgul alongside Eltariel. Talion builds up enough strength to assault Sauron's fortress directly. During the battle, Talion faces Isildur, who has been corrupted into a Nazgul. Talion manages to defeat Isildur, but upon seeing his memories of how he was corrupted by the One Ring, decides to destroy Isildur and release his spirit rather than dominate him. Celebrimbor remarks angrily that Isildur would have been a valuable asset to their cause, leading Talion to realize that Celebrimbor wishes to replace Sauron by dominating him rather than destroying him. Talion refuses to follow Celebrimbor's orders anymore, causing the Wraith to abandon him and possess Elteriel instead. Without Celebrimbor or the ring, Talion begins to die before seeing a vision of Shelob. She informs him that if he had gone on to fight Sauron, they would have succeeded and Celebrimbor would have enslaved Sauron and marched on the rest of Middle-earth. She implores Talion to continue to fight to contain the darkness within Mordor. Deciding to put his fate in his own hands, Talion picks up the ring Isildur was wearing to preserve his own life. He uses the power of Isildur's ring to assault and seize Minas Morgul, defeating the Witch King in the process. Talion takes possession of the Palantir and observes Celebrimbor and Elteriel making their assault on Sauron. The latter two manage to gain the upper hand, and Celebrimbor attempts to dominate Sauron, only for Sauron to cut off two of Elteriel's fingers, one of which is adorned with the Ring of Power, and merge himself with Celebrimbor. As a result, Sauron and Celebrimbor remain trapped in Sauron's tower in the form of a flaming eye as their spirit continues to battle each other for dominance. Knowing he will not be able to resist the ring, Talion decides to use Minas Morgul as a fortress to keep Sauron's forces contained in Mordor for as long as he can. Decades later, Talion succumbs to the corruption of Isildur's ring and joins Sauron's forces as a Nazgul, where he goes with the others to hunt for Frodo and the One Ring. However, with the destruction of Sauron and the One Ring, Talion dies with the rest of the Nazgul, and his spirit is freed. He is last seen on the shores of Valinor, discarding his weapons and armor as he walks off into the west. Development. After the success of Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, Monolith Productions returns to lead the development of the sequel. Creative director Michael De Platter said that the development of Shadow of Mordor was a learning study for Monolith in how to make an open-world game, and the development team limited themselves in the scope of what they could deliver for that game. With those lessons learned, De Platter said that Monolith was able to take up a bolder step forward for Shadow of War, saying, "This is our ambition to do the big, blockbuster version of the ideas we'd begun to explore in the first game. It's kind of our Terminator 2 to the Terminator. Monolith upgraded their game engine, the Lith Tech, from Shadow of Mordor to the Firebird engine, which can support large-scale battles and more complex features in the Nemesis system. The team wanted the game's story to evoke some of the most iconic and epic elements in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. They created the battle systems that enable large-scale battles where parts of the battle would be managed by the various followers that the player had recruited, thus allowing the player to still focus on the violence and brutality of close-quarter combat. In addition, the team would weave those moments into the story of the game and provide context for the Nemesis system, whose ultimate goal was to facilitate Talion's complete conquest of Mordor. Explaining why the story deviated from the Lords of the Rings canon, DePlatter described that the story was an adaptation of the books. While the team wanted to capture the spirit of Middle-earth as much as possible, the team created an original story that explores the darker side of Tolkien's works. As the game takes place in the decades between the end of The Hobbit and the Fellowship of the Ring, the team believed that they could fill in some of the missing details without impacting the wider story depicted in Tolkien's novels, as this period was relatively less explored in fiction. The team further compared the game to the Star Wars movie Rogue One, whereby the story of Shadow of War would lead into the events of The Lord of the Rings. The story was also designed to be accessible, and players need not play Shadow of Mordor or understand any of Tolkien's works before playing Shadow of War. The Shadow Wars endgame mode was created with the intention of giving players more reasons to continue playing the game and explore the Nemesis system after they complete the main story. The team expected only a small percentage of players to unlock this final ending. Talion returned as the game's central protagonist. The game's narrative follows a 3-act structure and provides a definitive ending to Talion's story that begins in Shadow of Mordor. According to DePlatter, while Talion inherited the heroic traits of Boromir, he is ultimately an everyman like Samwise Gamgee. Troy Baker returned to provide the voice for Talion, while also serving as the motion capture director for all story sequences in the game. Baker drew from his experience working with Naughty Dog on The Last of Us and Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, while working on the project while working closely with the game's writers and cutscene directors. In addition to Baker, Alastair Duncan returned to voice Celebrimbor. In the game, Celebrimbor is an ambitious figure of power who believes that he can be better than Sauron once he takes the ring. The team wanted to take players to areas outside of Mordor and have Talion meet other new characters. New members of the cast include Laura Bailey, who played the role of Eltariel, an elven assassin working for Galadriel, who fights to keep Nazgul within Mordor. Pollyanna McIntosh voiced Shelob, a spider who can shapeshift into a human woman in the game. While this decision was initially met with a backlash from the fan of the series, as Shelob was not a woman in the books, writer Tony Elias decided that they could explore the character in a much more in-depth manner when she was in her human form, or they would have to dramatically reduce her role in the game. The team tried to devote resources to new regions as much as possible. The locations in the game were inspired by the landscapes of eastern Washington, Alaska, and Iceland. DePlatter added that each region in the game was larger in size when compared to that of Shadow of Mordor, and was more environmentally diverse. The 5 regions were also designed to be more colorful, contrasting with the gritty art style of Shadow of Mordor. The human city of Minas Ithil was designed as the first location that Talion would visit. The team took inspiration from Minas Tirith from the films and from Roman architecture, while designing the look for the city. They also consulted illustrator and architect Ted Nasmith. The team also planned for the city to be attacked and captured by Nazgul, becoming the fallen city of Minas Morgul. Saragost was a snowy location that had changes in elevation but not previously seen in its predecessor. Cirith Ungol was a massive cave complex where remnants of an ancient civilization can be found. Norn returned in Shadow of War as a tropical island. Through Norn, the team wanted to explore the theme of nature destruction, as orcs were destroying its lush forests to provide supplies for their war effort. Gorgoroth was described as a hellscape, and this culmination of all of these iconic locations and structures that everybody knows and everyone loves from the lore made real. Gorgoroth was heavily industrialized, as the team wanted to show how the orcs were preparing for war by building different engines of wars and factories. The Nemesis system also influences the world itself, with each environment changing depending on the tribe of the orc overlord controlling each fortress. While we have the original version of the Shadow of War game for the PS4, recording was easier with the Steam demo version. There's plenty of variety that you can choose to play, and all the options feel satisfying to play as well. Now, building the Lego tower was fun, and I enjoyed all the fun details and little Easter eggs throughout the tower. Having the ledge to the lava was a bonus for me since I thought the tower was the only thing to build in the set. I currently have it displayed with an original Lord of the Rings The Two Towers poster that I had collected from my local Blockbuster. They had the poster in a frame in the window, so the colors on the inside of the frame are a little bit faded. Total build time, 12 hours, 26 minutes, 8 seconds. Which means you could watch the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings, at 228 minutes, The Two Towers at 235 minutes, and The Return of the King at 263 minutes, and 28 minutes of The Hunt for Gollum from 2009. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, share, ring that bell, all the things for the YouTubes. Thank you.